Hi, everybody, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 9 of our Back to Life podcast, Finding Fulfillment After 50. I'm your host, Danny Bader, and very excited for today's guest. Her name is Shannon Paterson, and Shannon is a 3-time Ironman world champion triathlete, certified professional trainer and multi-sport coach. Shannon is a mentor, an author, a motivational speaker, and she has 25 years of experience in the health and the fitness industry. What's really interesting about our conversation, you're going to hear it right away, is Shannon has survived 2 near-death experiences. So she's going to talk about those, and then she's also going to talk about what that did to her in terms of a shift in her perspective. You're really going to enjoy that, and I think you're going to see how it might relate to what you're dealing with in life as well. Shannon talks about the dichotomy of strength and breaks it down into physical, emotional, and spiritual. Really, really good conversation there. She also talks, and we address the anxiety that seems so prevalent, especially with young girls right now, high school and college age. And she gives a really good strategy. We call it the 3 A's. And she breaks it down into some things that we can do to watch our self-talk, because as her and I say, and as you know, that little voice in our head or the voices in our head really run the show. And there are times when we've got to become aware of them and then have a good strategy to shift those into more positive self-talk. She gives you a couple of ways to get that self-talk out. She says you got to take your thoughts and you got to get them out. So you'll pick up a few things you might want to start to experiment with. So let's listen in, and if you like this, be sure to go ahead, post a comment, share it, like it, put it out through your social media. So here is our episode with Shannon Paterson. Well, hi, Shannon. Thanks a lot for joining us on our Back to Life podcast. I'm excited to get in and talk with you. I'm sure there's some wonderful insight. Our folks heard the intro about you and some of your experiences in life. So I'd love to jump into it. Welcome. And maybe you could start with telling us about those near-death experiences, not 1, but 2 that you had.
Yes. Thank you, Danny. Thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate the podcast that you have and the work that you're doing to talk about midlife and how we can revel in that. I call it a midlife revolution. We bask in that evolution, or do we let it kind of stunt us? So I appreciate that. And yeah, to talk about the near-death experiences, I'm a triathlete, and I competed in a very high-level age group triathlon, Ironman, which is the one you see on TV in Kona and all of that.
Right.
And both of my near-death experiences have to do with being on my bike, which I sometimes laugh at because I'm like, no, really, I do know how to ride a bike. But, there's this unfortunate thing in triathlon that you either have been hit by a car or you will be hit by a car. And I've had it happen twice. And the first time that it happened, I was riding down this hill in the middle of the lane, bright yellow jersey, should have been able to be seen, and this car just turned literally right in front of me.
Oh my God.
I saw the car turning. I tried to jam on my brakes. There was no way. And basically I woke up in the ambulance on the way to the ER for like a half a second. And then I woke up in the ER.
Wow.
That was in my early 30s.
Right.
And a couple of things that came out of that.
And you're how old now?
I'm 48 and like 9/10. I turned 49 in a couple of weeks.
48 and 9/10. I love that. I love it.
So yeah, early 30s, I'm going to say I was probably 32, something like that. And two major factors came out of that. The first one that I feel is the most important is I came out of that realizing life is short. I was like 30 and I could have never woken up again and I wouldn't have known. And with that, I made a change in my mindset that I was no longer going to keep it inside how I felt about my friendships, my family. I came from a very guarded, non-communicative family.
Right.
Knew they loved me, nothing like that. Just no one ever talked about it. There was no PDA. There was no I love yous, none of that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So I made that decision because I realized that life could be cut off at any time, that I was going to put forth into the universe my love and energy to everyone I knew. I wrote emails to people. I wrote handwritten letters. I started just telling everyone how much I loved you and appreciated and how valued you were in my life. And what happened when I started doing that putting that energy out into the universe, is it starts coming back to you. People receive it and then they give it back to you. So that was just this beautiful, kind of, it only takes one person, right, to start that flow, that wave of energy. And having that and feeling so good about that continued. I kept doing that. I have kept doing that throughout life. So that was probably my biggest aha moment from that first step.
So what were you like before? Were you just kind of, doing your thing and training? And I'm sure you were a wonderful person, just not as outward, as proactive with your love?
I was much more closed. Like I just like my family. I just expected you to know you're my friend. You know that I love you. I don't have to tell you that.
Oh,
It or, whatever. It was just this like expectation. And I think there was this stoicism that I had grown up with of like, you always have to like be strong. And because I was a child of, the 70s and then a woman coming through the 90s, you had to be like masculine and like be tough and do all these things in order to succeed in business. And that crossed over into my personal life too, where I didn't feel comfortable. I hadn't ever experienced it before. And I had these expectations that I thought were expected of me by society. So it's a combination of my own internal speak, my experiences, and then what I thought was expected.
Yeah. That is cool. I want to hear when you had the near-death experience in a moment, did you have any experience of out of body or light or anything? So I want to hear that. And before I do, though, I love that you talk about this. It's funny. You said, your friends know that you love them and you don't have to tell them and all that. And I've been telling people that I love them for a long, long time. And I have one buddy, really, really good friend of mine, one of my best, dearest friends. And I always tell him, I love you, Pat. And it's the joke now because he always goes, I know you do, Danny. Here's the thing, though. We get together for lunch and we just did it in July, and a few beers every July 28th, which is the anniversary of my accident. And as we leave and walk, to our bikes or our cars or whatever, I say, hey, I love you. And he says, yeah, I love you back, and there's tears in his eyes. So I know it's cool. And I think, people, as you said, we really have to pay more attention to that. I was thinking about it. I was going to do a video. I haven't. Last week, we go to Cape May, New Jersey, down at the beach. And there was a young lifeguard, 16 years of age, that was out in the rowboat and just was, I think, just doing some training. And it was a little rough and it flipped. A wave caught him and hit his head. And he passed away a few days later. So very, very somber mood on the whole town, just a small little beach town. And then I'm riding home on Monday and there's something going on at an intersection up ahead. And I go past and I look and there's a guy on the road and they're working CPR on him. He's probably late 30s, early 40s. I don't know how hard. It didn't seem that there was an accident. But again, I was just, and I don't listen to the radio too much when I drive like you. I was like, holy shit, man, slow down, pay attention to life and make sure that you're focused on the right thing. So great message from you.
Yeah, so true. And, to where you started with your buddy and your example, to this day, when I talk to my dad on the phone, he will never, ever say, I love you until I say it first. Then he'll say it back, but I'll wait sometimes in the end and just see, and he won't do it. It's that just like unknown, maybe I don't even know exactly other than that he wasn't raised with that. Yeah. But I'm super happy to let him know that I love him, to say it out loud and then give him that permission to say it back to me. Yeah. So I think we can do that, for other people in our lives, like you're saying with your buddy, and just keep doing it. Just keep putting it out there into the universe and it will come back to you.
Yeah. Yeah, it will. It will for sure. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. One of the things I'm working on this year is, when I think about how do I really want to show up, and it's very consistent with you, is leave nothing unsaid that needs to be said to the people that I love. That's kind of this little mantra I try to keep holding focus on. So that's cool. How about if we do this, Shannon? How about a quick overview of your second near death? And then in either of those, did you experience any type of out of body, light, connection with source, universe, God, any of that? So what was the second near death?
So the second near death was on my bike as well. And this was on the island of Kona. And if you've ever been to Kona, there's like a little itty bitty hospital there, but it's not like where you're going to really go to the hospital. So this was a 5-hour bike ride that I had been on in order to train for Kona that year. I was going to the World Championships. And I was down in Aero, and the next thing I knew, I was being put on a helicopter to be airlifted to Oahu, because that's where you had to go when you were like in my situation. So I had a head-on collision with a pickup truck who was not supposed to be where it was. And neither time did I see the light or any of that. It was just black, just out, completely out. And then waking up with like, what the hell just happened? Where am I? That is what had happened. Now with that near-death experience, I broke my neck. And so I was in a neck brace for, I don't even know how long. And I'd already gone through the first one. So I understood the brevity of life and how I needed to appreciate that. This was a different reckoning. I think the couple big changes for me were I had to come to terms with there are things in life that you can't just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. You can't always be trying to force things. And I'm using this analogy with the physical forcing of something where I really probably shouldn't have quite been out that long because I had been training really hard. But I'm saying the mental piece of what I was going through in my life that time was a very tumultuous marriage that was super toxic. And it made me realize that physical strength quite often doesn't match with your internal strength and confidence. I didn't have, I was like two different people. I was this strong physical person, but mentally I was not strong from the regards of how I was allowing myself to be in this relationship.
Right.
And that kind of dichotomy of strength meaning different things, whether it's emotionally, physically, spiritually, and kind of starting to really delve into why was I allowing myself to stay in this situation? What was my role in that? Not anybody else, but what was my role?
Sure.
And where did that come from? What was my why? And going into those deep places that aren't super comfortable because they come from your childhood usually. And so you have to go through those feelings of, disappointment or regret or shame or guilt or all of those things. And then be able to look at that in a way that's not judging, that it's just looking. Let me just be aware. Where is that coming from? Give myself compassion. Act like it's not me. Maybe this is my best friend who I'm looking at this resume.
Right.
I would say, oh yeah, of course you felt all of these things and that led you to where you are right now. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. What it means is you have this amazing opportunity to become the person that you want to be. You don't have to be stuck in that mindset anymore. So that was for me, the big thing with the near death on the second one was a real awakening of my inner self, what I call my essence.
Right.
Who was I? What did I want to accomplish from not a physical perspective, but as a woman, as a human? What did I want to do with my life?
Yeah. So let's explore those three, the dichotomy of strength. I like that. So it's physical strength, it's emotional, mental strength, and then it's the spiritual strength. So you've been an athlete your whole life. Is that right?
I started after college, actually, is where I really became like into the athletic piece of it. I danced and did volleyball and stuff when I was young, but I was never like an athlete. Got
it. So in terms of physical strength, if somebody's listening, and I know you do a lot of work with women, but even men as well. If somebody's listening right now and they're not going to do the Ironman or the Iron Woman, obviously, and they just have an inkling to get back in more shape. I saw something the other day. I did a podcast with a guy, Dr. Anthony Balduzzi, who has a project called Fit Father Project. He's over in Scottsdale, not far from where you are. And it said over 46% of men over 40 are overweight. Mm-hmm. And it was very interesting. So what would you say to somebody listening right now and go, oh my gosh, this woman's amazing. She does, triathlons in Hawaii. What would you say to them to kind of get them started towards greater health?
It's so interesting that you bring this up because my career has been for the past 25 plus years as a personal trainer and as an athletic coach. People come to me to be trained for triathlon or for marathoning, long endurance events usually.
Right.
And within the last year and a half, I have transitioned from being just the fitness guru, just the athletic coach, into the mindset empowerment coach. Mm. And what I have been realizing is that while I'm trying to kind of I don't want to only be pigeonholed into this fitness aspect. I want to do this new thing. It's not a new thing. I've been doing this for the past 25 years, empowering people. Because 95% of what I do is mindset. Right. The other 5% is here's your program, go do these exercises, right? Right. So what I hope that people will be able to relate is that not that this girl's doing something, I could never do that. I don't want that to ever come across. It's that I am just an average person, quite honestly. Mm-hmm. Didn't grow up with any kind of special gifts when it came to that athletically. Right. But I think a couple things were really important. First was that I surrounded myself with people when I was starting to get into the athletic component of triathlon with people who were also doing it. And those people and that energy of let's get together, let's be accountable, let's talk about this, get excited, have that energy and feed off of each other. And I think all too often when it comes to trying to get fit and lose weight and do all these things, people try to do it all by themselves. Right. And it's easy to let yourself slide, give yourself that excuses and all these things. But if you're accountable to someone else or ideally a group of people even, that's a huge component in my opinion. Right. And I think the other component is stop thinking of it as exercise and this is a chore I have to check off my list, and think of it as an opportunity to feel better and do something that you love. Don't do something that you're, hating, go slaving away. If you're not a gym rat, don't go to the gym, go outside, take a walk, start playing tennis, take up a new sport that you haven't done before.
I think that's great.
Are super important. People are always well, what's the best exercise? The one that you'll do consistently. That's quite honestly the answer.
There's a little radical common sense, huh? If you like it, you'll probably do it more. I think it's so important. In my Jackrabbit model, one of the principles is seek support, because I know when I was going through my accident, I was trying to get better alone, and it's so important. So I think that's a great message to the people there. You want to get in better shape, hang around with people that are in good shape, right?
Right. Yeah. It's kind of the concept of I have people, same thing with food and nutrition, right? I used to battle with these women who, usually the women are buying the groceries for the family and they buy all this junk food for their kids and then they would eat it too. Oh yeah. And I'd be like, well, who's buying your groceries? Well, I am. Well, why are you buying those? Well, the kids like it. Yeah. Okay, really? That's your answer? Is the kids like sugar? Okay. If you didn't buy that and you bought other things, you surrounded yourself with other options that were healthy and tasty. Sure. You wouldn't have that looming and calling your name in, the late.
Yeah. That's so key, right? Change the environment, that the environment encourages a new behavior. Right. So like you say, when you open the refrigerator and the environment of the refrigerator is healthy food, you're going to develop a habit of eating more healthy, as you say. And people that working out, make it as easy as possible. Get all your clothes right next to the bed. Visualize yourself getting out of bed. Use past tense. It was so great. Tell yourself you worked out tomorrow, today, and you're going, wait, how did I do that? But then the brain's wired and it wants to make that real. Yeah. How do you use, in terms of our mindset, and we're here now with the mental. So I understand, the physical strength is you just develop physical strength. In terms of mindset, what does that mean to you? It's a word that's thrown around so much. How do you define that?
I think for me, when I talk about mindset, I always use the word choice.
The word choice?
Because so many people feel stuck or feel like they don't have a choice. Well, this is just the way that I am, or this is just how I've always done things, or I don't have this much time, or they tell me all the things they can't do, as opposed to the things that they can do. So it is this is my strong belief when it comes to mindset. Right. You get to choose straight up. Every single thing is a choice in life. You get to wake up in the morning and you get to choose if you are going to go work out, if you're going to go sit in front of the television, if you're going to go have a fight with your significant other. All of those are choices that you get to make, right? Yes. So the mindset piece of that is understanding that you are not a victim, that you have the ultimate power. And so many people squash that power before they even delve into it. They don't even give it a thought that they could make a different choice in their current thinking because they're so stuck in their past and their past story.
So that's all their self-talk, right? That's that little voice or voices in our head. You know, we always laugh. Some people say they have that whole committee up there of different voices in the head and that self-talk. So how important? I mean, that's everything, right? Because your self-talk is kind of, I always say it's like the radio tower operator telling the pilot where to land. So if that self-talk is telling you to land in watching TV, eating crappy foods, making excuses, that's where you're going to land, so to speak.
Right. I think the first step, like people want to have the solution right away. Well, I'm supposed to have good self-talk, or I'm supposed to self-love, or I'm supposed to have self-belief, right? But they don't really know how to get any of those things. They just know that they want them. So I want to be able to be there right now. And honestly, the first step is to take a big step backward and start being aware. I mean, that's the first key step is, are you aware of the negative thoughts that are coming into your brain? Yeah. If you're just saying the same words to yourself or out loud, I did this for a while, straight up. I still catch myself doing it. We're not perfect, but for a very long time, I said, I'm broken. Because I had a series of injuries that I've just had double ankle surgery during COVID because of injury after injury and all these things. And I was having a meltdown of different kinds of things with my body. So I just kept saying I'm broken. Well, what good does that do me? If I keep saying that to myself, then I'm going to find it easier and easier to stop finding ways to heal and to get better and get stronger mentally and physically and emotionally and spiritually and all those things. So I had to become aware that I was saying that and that I had to stop it. But the first part was the awareness. The second part is the acceptance of where am I at right now? Okay, this is what's happened, but now I can change that because I'm not going to identify. I choose not to identify with this self-limiting belief or this self-deprecating belief. I make that decision. So I feel like awareness, acceptance, then you take the action on how are you going to take steps forward to really delve into self-love, self-belief, self-confidence. Awareness, acceptance. Yeah, I always say, the definition of okay, something can be okay is if you agree with it or you accept it. And so even when we're in struggling times, difficult times, you can look and go, it's okay. And then sometimes people will go, no, it's not okay. Look at the facts. And you go, yeah, the facts are there. They're challenging. They're negative. I've got to move through them. It's not where I want to be. And it's okay because I accept where I am. So I think that's a wonderful point that you're making there. And I think what you're bringing up is that acceptance part of I'm just going to deal with whatever life throws me. That's the way it goes. And that kind of almost giving up kind of an okay, I just have to accept what I've got. That's definitely not what I'm saying. And you don't want to accept and stay, right to your point. This is just the way it is. Life sucks. And usually when somebody says this sucks, I always usually just follow up with a question, compared to what? And they go, what do you mean? I say, yes, where you are right now is not good. It sucks. Compared to what? Let's put some perspective around it. Right. And I think, I deal a lot with midlife women and really trying to coach women through this mindset piece that you're bringing up. And I see a lot of women stuck in that, I should just be happy. I'm I'm married and I have a job and I have these kids. But if they're really honest with themselves, they're not really feeling that sense of fulfillment. And if they're not why are you not? Like, don't just say, well, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I agree.
Explore that deep why. It's important. And I think it's important to write those things down, get them out of your head, those spinning things that we can't quite like nail down and figure out until we write it down. Talk about it with other people, other women. Like I'm seeing a slow shift, and maybe because I spend a lot of time doing this and on Clubhouse, where there's this community of women who are really trying to put it out there into the universe that you are not alone, sister. Like we all have this stuff going on. I might look like I have it all together, but let me tell you what, I'm fighting with my spouse every day, or my parents are refusing to go into elder care, which is where they really need to be, or all of these things, right, that can lead to my own lack of self-confidence. And when we put that out there, we talk about it. I think it's so important for humans to get the thoughts out of our bodies, verbalize them, because often we process as we verbalize. We may not, you have these aha moments. You're like, I just said that. I didn't know that's how I felt. And then you can start breaking that down. Right. No, I think that's so good. You just said it's so important for us humans to verbalize our thoughts, because otherwise thoughts are just, they're there, they're very real, but you can't see, feel, touch a thought until you verbalize it and you write it down and say, holy shit, these are the first 4 things I said to myself when I got my ass out of bed this morning. That's not going to serve me today to create. So it's really important. Do you journal in the morning? I don't journal at a certain time. I journal when I feel like I need to. Like I start having those thoughts and I'll be like, you know what? I need to write this stuff down because I'm having these things that I hear in my brain that are not positive, that where's that coming from? Yeah. Then I write them down and then I start talking to people about it. I'll start asking people, questions, or like, hey, I had this thought. Like, what do you think? Is this something that bothers you? And then that's my verbal piece of being able to like even get more clarity. Yeah. And I think that Clubhouse group, and we'll talk about that towards the end, you can tell people where to find you and how to connect with some other things. But I think that's so important because it gets back to the whole notion of support. Right now you're in this group, you're holding one another accountable, not just to get your workouts in, but also accountable to life and to getting to that fulfillment, and the happiness, versus joy. Well, joy is the internal feeling that we create. And I think it's just an expression of love. When we love ourselves and we love other people, then there's the joy. When we have that joy, then people call us happy. So happiness is the outward expression of our inner joy. That's kind of how I see it. Most of the time we don't walk around and say, oh, Shannon's so joyful. Danny's so joyful. Danny's happy. And what they're seeing is that inside expression that you talk about, which I think is really, really important and so much connected to that little voice that's kind of running the show upstairs, right? Absolutely. Yeah. I'm a huge, what I have learned as I've gotten older is to be protective of the people that I let close to me, because I want to cultivate positivity. And so while in the past I wanted to fix things for people and you have all these problems, let me tell you how to do it. Yeah. Instead now, if I feel that person is in a space where they're ready to like, I want to work on these things, I realize, then I want to listen, hear them out, let them ask questions, help them come along to their own conclusions. I'm not going to fix it, but I'm going to do that. And I'm going to maintain my circle of positivity so that I can put that out into the universe too, like you're saying. Right. I just think we're so much more connected than people even realize. Yeah. And that sense of vibration that some people call it, or I just call it energy, that you emote. I don't have to say one word to you and I would feel it. Right. Oh, yeah. And that's the importance of, getting those people in your circle. And like, oh, absolutely. When we were introduced, by our friend Lori, and I just, I checked out your website and I heard a couple of your videos. I'm like, oh, this is a no-brainer. We're going to have a very easy conversation. And, I just trusted that we would create value for the listeners, which I'm pretty sure we're doing now.
I think that's great. Yeah. Yeah. Energy is so powerful, right? So let's, while we're on the self-talk and the mindset, and you're working, with the middle-aged women, what I see a lot now, and I'm even working on a chapter in my newest book, is the younger people, girls, with the anxiety, high school, college, and that anxiety is just that nervousness or that sense of worry about what could happen, what's going to happen. What are your thoughts on that? If some people listening, maybe it is a young girl or it's a parent, and they're going, what can I do to support them? Now, this said, you and I both know there are times when people need professional help. They got to go see a doctor. They got to check all their blood levels and hormone levels and all that. And they may need some meds to move them through an anxiety state. And there are other things that we can do for ourselves, on the other side of that. So what do you think around that whole topic of this anxiety with younger people?
Yeah, I love that you're bringing this to the table, because while I do, focus my energy on midlife women, one of the really, really important things to me as a midlife woman is to help the generations coming up to not have the same anxieties that we had, the same struggles, to maybe give them, a little push forward so they don't have to go through some of that. And I think their anxieties are some different than we grew up. We didn't have social media and all those things.
Yeah, right.
But the anxiety for younger women around getting older, looking older, being irrelevant, perhaps because of that, because the only things that we see in movies and ads and social media are these beautiful, women.
Right.
And
beautiful as defined outside.
Yes, exactly.
Obviously,
right.
Yeah,
yes, for sure.
Yeah,
and
the hair, the bodies, the boobs, the everything, everything. Yeah.
And even though they know that these can be touched up and they know that they're not always real, it still seeps into their souls. These young girls, they still, feel like they have to look perfect and be perfect and all of those components. And what we're trying to say as midlife women is, no, you don't.
Say it. Don't just say it.
You are perfectly imperfect. That's what makes you beautiful.
Right on.
It's that you are unique and that you're so much more than this outer shell. You are this light within. And find what lights you up personally. What is your passion? Follow that, because that's what's going to attract the right kind of people into your life,
right?
Not the frivolous, people who are just going to judge you based on face value. So there's that anxiety around body image and the anxiety around, needing to be everything to everybody.
Right.
Women in particular, we have this thing that we used to call people pleasing.
Yes.
I think some people still use that term. And I try to encourage young women to stop saying selfish when you're talking about self-love, self-respect, self-confidence. A lot of people, when you tell them when you emit that energy, they're going to start trying to label that. They're going to start labeling the things that you do as being selfish. It's not selfish. If you are doing something that feels purposeful and passionate to you, that is how you're going to garner self-love and how you're going to be able to be a better human who can then be more accessible and motivating and inspiring to others. If we're doing something because we think we should do it, or we've been, all those words that we use to imply that there's a better way, listen to your gut, listen to your intuition. And I think with young women, we get easily influenced with the societal expectations. We're working on it. We're trying to put it out there.
Right.
But, I have a close friend who's 15, 20 years younger than me. And she's in a male dominated industry. And I said, you know who Gloria Gaynor is? Sorry, Gloria Steinem. Gloria Gaynor. She sang songs. No, Gloria Steinem.
Gaynor, yeah, she sang those great disco songs in the 70s. We're dating ourselves right now, Shannon, by the way.
That's
the young girls listening though, you just lost me on Gloria Gaynor.
And they're like, I have no idea who that is. She said, well, I kind of know who she is. And I said, well, you watch this documentary with me about, it's on Netflix, about her life. And we watched it and we would stop and we would talk about it. And it was enlightening for her to understand the struggle that was not that long ago for equality and all of those things that had to do with not only just job equality, but like, she came to an interview in a turtleneck and black jeans and the guy was telling her she was too sexual, things like this that happen throughout life. And so what I'm saying is the generations to come, I think it's important to know our history, see how we are making progress, but that we still need to focus on that. We still need to maintain this level of, I want to be a part of the movement for all women to feel it's okay to be you. It's okay to not be Superwoman, Wonder Woman. Yeah. You can just be you. Right. And that's a gift to the universe right there. Yeah. Yeah. So the young girls with anxiety is the same, the A's that you were talking about, that awareness to really say, what am I saying to myself about me and my life? And then the acceptance of, okay, yeah, I'm a little negative or I'm a little depressed or I'm a little, worrisome, that acceptance. And then understanding that it doesn't have to stay that way. There are actions you can take, getting support and just choosing different actions then that are going to kind of rewire how you think about it. And not even probably will definitely create some momentum forward. You think? Yes. And I think, being willing to have conversations with all different women, if you don't want to talk to your mom because it feels weird, talk to your mom's friend, talk to your, a trusted teacher, talk to an adult, talk to a woman in midlife, and then go talk to like someone your grandma's age. Sure. And talk to her, get all of those perspectives, because if you're only talking to the girls who are also under the anxiety and all those things and the judgment, you're just going to feed into that, and if you can see, oh, well, all these other women felt like I did too when they were my age, but they made it through by, implementing self-love and no self-judgment and all these things that are kind of foreign, I think, for young girls. Yeah. So those conversations are really important. And I hope that the young girls will reach out, but I also want the midlife women and the older women who I call my older sisters to do that too. Like we can initiate those conversations, whether that's individually or in platforms like this. It's all just putting it out there, normalizing the conversations about talking about your feelings. Yeah. You don't have to always talk to a therapist. I agree. There are times when you should, but let's just talk as humans about the fact that we're scared, we're unsure, we're all sorts of emotions. Yeah. And not just, put that in the dumpster as like, well, you're over emotional. Stop with it. But like you said earlier, Shannon, it is when you verbalize those thoughts, then they become real, right? I mean, they're real in your thoughts, but they're real in your head. But just to sit there and say, I feel crappy, I feel so sad. And then kind of to go with that, at least now they're out there. And like you said, now you can go, oh, okay, I got to do something with these, versus when they're just kind of ambushing you throughout the day or the evening or whatever. So I think it's so important for you to say, write some things down and look at them, talk with people, and just understand. I think the whole thing is understand that it's okay. As you said, we're human beings and our brains are wired to keep us safe from threats. So obviously we're going to worry about what could go wrong because our brain wants to make sure that doesn't. It's just when that goes too far, sometimes it really impacts our ability to live a fulfilling life, as you said. Right. I feel like we can what if and go to the bad places. What if this bad thing happens? Or we can, what if this is amazing? What if this is a whole new adventure? Oh, gosh. What if it helps me grow and blossom and new directions I never thought possible? I think that's great to say, what if? And, that's really vision, right? The ability for us to imagine, what's it going to be like when, I lose this weight? What's it going to be like when I get into this wonderful relationship? What's it going to be like when? I think that's really key. And oftentimes what we do is we fill in that blank with some shitty stuff versus, as you said, really what we want. And then telling people that. I think it's cool. So let's go to, if we can,
let's go to the last of the dichotomy that we were talking about, because we've covered some great things. And I really appreciate how you've given people some practical takeaways versus just this esoteric kind of conversation. So that's great. Our strength, we talked about physical a little bit. We talked about the emotional and the mindset and our self-talk. What about spiritual? How do you connect with spiritual, God, universe, whatever you want to call it?
Right. And obviously, like you just said, whatever you want to call that, because it's so different for everyone.
Sure.
For me personally, the spiritual is very obtuse for it. It's just a feeling. It's that power of connection with something other than me.
Right.
So that's how I think about spirituality. I'm not religious. I respect people who are religious, and that's a beautiful, it feels good. But for me, what feels good is to hold myself accountable for being a good person, for doing what feels morally right, and those things that a lot of times religion deals with. But it's that connection, again, like I said, where my connection is to other people and to some kind of spiritual sense of the universe. So I don't have like a clear definition of what that is. I just know when I feel it, I feel that connection, it's insanely empowering.
Yeah, it sure is. So do you believe that connection to that source, whatever it is there some of the energy of that source inside of you? And that's what connects kind of back to it?
I think it's an openness. It's a willingness to not always have to be black and white, to have this factual list of like, well, if this happens, then this has to happen. It's more of that openness, the open-mindedness, the willingness to think about things in a different way and to just really transcend. That's one of the meanings of transcendence, is to just be be able to take all of that in. And
very trusting, right? That just trusting that we as human beings on this journey are where we need to be.
Right. To have that faith.
Oh yeah. 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 Faith is belief without proof, right?
Exactly.
That's the definition of faith. So yeah, to have that faith and that trust, Mother Teresa had a great quote that said, just trust that you're exactly where you need to be, where you're intended to be.
Right.
And she would say where God intends you to be right now. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's really a struggle. And just trust, and then move through it.
Yeah. I think for me, I didn't have a strong sense of that faith. Like I said, I was always trying to push. I'm going to do this more. I'm going to work harder. I'm just going to do it no matter what. I'm going to make it in all areas of my life, not just athletics.
Yes.
And when things started to not go, they started to deteriorate, or things didn't work out the way I thought they were going to work out. I had to go to this place of like, but they will work out. It's all going to work out.
Right.
I'm keep doing the best that I can, but I'm also going to take a step back and let some of these things happen.
Yeah.
Without me having to force it. Let the universe speak to me, that higher power, fill my soul with whatever I need at that time, whether that's rest, recovery, maybe it is movement, maybe it's just peace. And that's what I need to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Peace is the absence of conflict, right? So we're not conflicted in any ways. I think that's beautiful. That's cool. So as we wrap up, where can, I'll ask you kind of to just give people, 2 or 3 things that if you're having lunch with them or a glass of wine or breakfast or whatever, and you're never going to see them again, and they say, you know what, Shannon, I love your energy. I want to live a fulfilling life. What are 2 or 3 things that I should really stay focused on? All right. So I'm going to ask you that question in a moment. Before I do, where can people find out more about you, your work, listen to some of your videos, connect with you? Where should they go?
My website is liveyourtruthco, as in company, liveyourtruthco.com. So that's an easy way to get in touch with me. I'm on most of the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Clubhouse. Those are Live Your Truth women or some variation of Live Your Truth, depending on which site you're looking at. And then on Clubhouse, it's my name, Shannon Paterson.
Shannon Paterson, cool.
And I have, so those are my like business accounts. If you want to drop in and like get to know me on a personal level, I'm all in for that too. And you can DM me through those and I'll send you to my personal Instagram pages and my Facebook pages, because I like to get to know who I want to coach with on a different level than just what your coaching is. And that way you can really understand if you resonate with people. Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. So important. Shannon, I have enjoyed this immensely. I'm glad that our paths cross and I trust they will stay connected. Here's the scenario. You're having lunch, breakfast, glass of wine with somebody. They want to live a fulfilling life. You're never going to see them again. And they say, Shannon, 2 or 3 things that are really strong principles that I need to be focused on. What do you think? I think I would almost take it down to 3 affirmations. We talk a lot about affirmations in this mindset space, right? But they have to feel authentic to you. So lots of affirmations out there. I'm like, I would never say that to myself. Yeah. But the things that I think we can all say to ourselves, number 1, you are limitless. You get to choose what you're going to take on, what you're not going to take on. You are limitless. Great. You are powerful. You have all the power within you to make those decisions, to make those choices. No one can take your power away from you unless you let them have a choice. And then the third thing is you are abundant. Like there's so much that you don't even know is out there for you yet. Let that happen. Don't force the things. You're limitless and you're powerful, but you can just be abundant by being, by opening up your mind and your heart and your soul. I love it. I think they are great. That's good. Well, Shannon, listen, I wish you all the best. You are a beautiful human being. And as I said, I'm sure our paths will stay connected. And everybody listening, I'm sure you picked up some nuggets from Shannon here. And until our next episode, just remember, as I offer you at the end, there's a hell of a difference between just living and being fully alive. So we'll see you next time. Shannon, thanks again. Thank you so much, Danny. Well, I'm sure you enjoyed that conversation with Shannon. I sure did. You know, for me, it was just a great reminder to really watch that voice in our head and have a strategy to deal with it. And really, as Shannon said, to get it out. You know, as human beings, we have to get our thoughts out so that we can really look at them and then determine, is it serving me well in terms of what I want to create or not? I think it was wonderful. It was also interesting to listen to the impact that her near-death experiences had. I think it's great where she said, I just express my love more to my family and my friends. And I know that every day is absolutely a gift. And I need to focus and make sure that I'm working on the right things. So if you liked this, and I'm sure you did, please comment, share, like, post it out through your social media. And be sure to check out all the things that we have going on our website, www.dannybader.com. We've got the links to the books out there. I've got a 4th one coming out soon. We've got our great online course called Back to Life. If you feel like you need you may be in a little rut and you need kind of a pick-me-up. And then also we have our speaking and our corporate trainings. So until next time, just remember that there is a hell of a difference between just living, right, going through the motions, and being fully alive. I love you. Wish you all the best.